Hello and welcome to the Kick in the Creatives podcast, hosted by myself, Sandra Busby, and my fellow creative Tara Roskell, offering you interviews, inspiration, motivation, and a gentle prod in the right direction. And for lots more information, challenges, and other useful tools to help you get creating, you can go to kickinthecreatives.com. And of course, this is where you can also find today's show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome to today's episode, which is all about taking part in an art show. But before we get onto that, thank you so much to everyone who's been sharing the work you've been doing for the challenges on social media. Keep them coming. We love seeing what you're doing. And also a big thank you to our latest Ko-fi supporters. And obviously, since the cost of things have gone up so much recently, your help is even more important to us. And your support also shows us that you like what we do and you'd like us to continue. And we're going to thank each of you personally at the end of the show.
And also we want to say a big thank you to our sponsor Evolve. Evolve can teach you how to paint in a realism style to a professional level in a year or less, and for a fraction of the price of art school, because that costs a blooming fortune. Not only do they provide you all the lessons and the support you need, but they'll also send you the materials as well. You can watch a free webinar from Evolve, and that's actually teaching you stuff. It's not just a selling thing. And you can go to that by going to kickinthecreatives.com/Evolve webinar. Or if you want to hear more about the programme, you can go back and listen to episodes 67 and 73. Anyway, Sandra, what is new with you? Are you feeling better?
I am, actually. For anybody who listened to episode 133, which is, I think, the one before this one, right? I think.
I don't know.
It's called Being an Artist, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Then you'll know that I've had a very dry spell for all sorts of reasons, and I am in a much better headspace than I was. Yes, much better. And I actually feel like I've been doing a bit of self-analysis. So,
oh my God.
I know. I think I've realised what part of the problem was, and because of that I feel like I've been able to find my way out of it a bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an episode or like catching up, an update really, so I don't want to go too much into it now. But yes, basically the upshot is I am now itching to do another painting, Tara.
Blimey.
I know.
Have you actually got something in mind?
Yeah, I've got something in mind, and I am actually going away to London for the weekend because I've got a birthday coming up, not this weekend, but the weekend after. But going away to London and staying in a hotel on a bank holiday, they put all the prices up, don't they?
Oh
so
my
we go
God.
the weekend before. Yeah. So, and I
thought you actually were going the bank holiday. Blimey.
No. We're going the weekend before because otherwise the prices skyrocket, don't they? So we're not going to do that. So, and I'm hoping that while I'm there, I will find the thing it is I'm looking for to paint. And I'm actually feeling much more like I really want to go in there. So I've been in the art room, I've been doing a bit of drawing, and I've been feeling good about it actually. So yeah, complete turnaround. I'll just to touch on what I think might have gone wrong a little bit. Yeah, is as I touched on back in that episode, we had for the previous year had some quite stressful things going on around us, and I have always used art as a way of de-stressing. Do you know what I mean? As well as going in there for other reasons as well, but sometimes, it's a really good way to unwind, and if you're feeling anxious and worried and things like that. But I think for the year leading up to this big dark block I was having, I'd really sort of been going into the art room to try and, because it's the one thing you can do where your mind just, it focuses on the thing you're doing, doesn't it? And you can unwind from all those other stresses. And I think part of the reason I got to where I was at is because I had begun associating doing art and painting with episodes of stress and worry, which I think is why I was suddenly having this reaction when I went into the studio without even doing anything. I'd walk in there, feel sick, and want to get out as quickly as I could. And I do think it's because I've started to associate that going in there with being in an anxious place. all of those things I was going through, that's all good now. It's fine. But of course, I'm left with that feeling of, oh my God, I can't go in there. When I go in there, I know I always feel stressed. And I think it's been a bit of a cycle thing.
It's like a trigger. Yeah, it's really funny you say that, because I used to feel that very much about this room that I'm sitting in now, which is my office where I now also paint, because this is my office where I used to do all my graphic design. And I didn't want to come in, when I was doing a lot of graphic design, I didn't want to come in here at the weekend at all, because this room was work that I hated.
Yeah.
So this room, I didn't like this room.
Oh, that's
it's
interesting.
Very odd, isn't it?
So what got you out of that then? How did you get past that?
Well, because I started doing less and less graphics and painting more. So now it's become, it's not the horrible place I do graphics anymore.
It's funny how our brains respond to things.
It really is.
So that's what's new with me. I haven't started anything new, but it's in the process of, canvas at the ready, just need the thing. So Tara, what is new with you?
Well, on Tuesday, I went to a local sketching breakfast, which I didn't have breakfast there, actually. But the Kino Lounge, it's actually that big pub that you went in. It's quite eclectic.
Oh, I love that place. The one with all the great big light shades all hanging all over the place.
Yes, and it's all cool. Completely bonkersy mix of furniture, isn't it? And it's almost like the walls are falling down, but it's quite a strange, interesting place. But they do the local art group, with the shop where I've got my stuff in. That art group do a sketching breakfast once a month. And I've never been before. And I actually wasn't going to go to this one. And then a friend that I walk my dog with, who's actually really good at sales type stuff, I said, I keep thinking about going, but I'm probably not. Because I'd really like to, and this is not mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but I'd really like to meet some full-time artists. Just so I can learn from. Do you know what I mean? People who are making a living from art. Yeah, and she goes, you should go along anyway, because you might just pick up some tips or learn about what's going on, or some events or something. So I thought, okay, I'll go try it. So I went, but majority of people were retired. They were very nice, but I didn't, and it was really nice to chat to people and draw with them, but I didn't really learn about any events or anything, except I did overhear something about they might be doing people from the Kino Lounge just have like a pop-up exhibition.
Oh,
I did hear that bit, but I shouldn't
I'll
have
tell you what,
heard
your work would look great in there, because it is so wacky.
Yeah, I mean, they do have really odd paintings on the walls, don't they? Anyway, like kind of found, it was almost like they've got them all from junk shops, quite weird, some of them. But yeah, so I went to that, but I say the majority of people I think were either retired, there might have been a couple who were like self-employed, but because it's on a Tuesday morning, if you're working or part-time working, you're not going to be able to go, are you?
No. So what was your sketching like then? Did you...
Do you know, the funny thing was, I posted them on Instagram. Don't get me wrong, they were no work of art at all, but they flowed so much better. Bearing in mind, I haven't done it for ages, like that sort of sketching.
No.
It felt easier.
Really? You'd think it'd be the opposite if you haven't done it for a long time.
But I think it's because I've been painting more.
Right.
If you know what I mean. I mean, I know not lately, but previously when we've been, to watch it, I probably haven't been concentrating on painting as much. Now I've been sort of drawing and stuff a lot more, but it just, I say they definitely weren't works of art and, not great or anything, but it just felt better kind of thing.
Was it one of these things where everybody kind of looks at everyone else's work at the end of it and this or not?
No, which was really good.
I think it's quite a good idea to do something like that or organise something like that where it's very clear that you don't have to show your work if you don't want to, but you can if you like, sort of thing. And if you're open to it, then let people know. And if you're not, then, just you don't have to feel like you've got to. Because I think that's something that puts people off going to these events. If they're beginners, they're like, oh, God, what if, mine's the worst and people are going to be looking at my stuff and nobody cares, but you feel bad, don't you? Do you know what I mean? When you're a beginner, you sort of feel like you don't belong and your stuff's not good enough. And it's quite nice to go somewhere where you don't have to feel like you've got to show it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we should get on to today's topic, and it's all about art shows. And the reason we decided to do this is because you've recently done your very first art show, haven't you, Tara?
Well, it's an art and craft show, yeah.
Yes, whatever. It's basically still out there exhibiting your stuff. And I know that you were absolutely terrified for weeks about this, and you were like, "Oh my God, guess what I've done? I'm going to do an art show." And I'm like, "What? I can't believe you do that, because this is just not, you don't normally do this stuff." And you did it. You were really brave. And now you say you're going to do another one. But obviously, we just thought, actually, why don't we do an episode on it then? Because you were really scared about it, and it wasn't as daunting as you'd expected on the day, was it?
No, it wasn't at all. No. Do you want me to kick off?
Tell us about how what made you decide you were going to finally get around to doing an art and craft show anyway?
Well, funnily enough, it was actually one of our previous podcast guests, and now I've forgotten her last name, so I'm going to have to quickly look it up. Hang on a minute. Her name is Megan Orman. Megan Orman, she's episode 132, and basically she emailed out to us and said, "Oh, she got a book out and she teaches stuff, and she teaches artists about basically marketing and productivity." And she said she'd be interested in coming on the show and we could have a free book to read. She said her book, and her book was basically called "Try It and See," because the problem with everybody, and artists included, is we'll think of an idea, we'll think, I wonder if my art would sell at an art show. But we want to know the answer without doing it. So her philosophy is all about just try everything and see if it works, basically. You'll never know till you try it, because even if you go from somebody else's experience, theirs won't be the same as yours, because their art won't be the same as yours. You're not the same person as them. So basically, try it and see. So I'd been getting a bit despondent about social media. I wasn't selling through that. So it's like, oh, what else can I do? And I thought, I wonder if... And then I think this thing must have popped up, or I must have saw the thing about Lamport Hall. So I thought, it's probably not the right event, but shall I just try it and see? So that was it, basically. I thought, let's just have a go. And I knew I was probably going to lose money doing it, which I did. But I was never going to know and never going to get over the fear of doing it unless I actually did it. So basically, before I could change my mind, I emailed the people about doing a stall and I booked it. Literally, I thought, just book it. Because then you can't, once you're committed, you got money in the game, you're going to do it, even your deposit sort of thing. So, it was just commitment. Do you know what I mean? Rather than you just, I might do that. It was like, yes, I'm committed now. I'm doing this. But, And then
there was that period where you were like, oh no, I actually have committed and I am doing it. Oh no, what have I done? I remember you saying that. What have I done?
And I think one of the huge things that I learned, and that is you need to plan things, because this is one of my biggest mistakes. I mean, one of the mistakes was probably picking the wrong show, but we'll go into that after. But my biggest mistake was panic buying, which sounds like crazy. Like it's almost like people buying toilet roll during COVID. Do you know what I mean? But it was panic buying without thinking things through. So, for example, I knew I'd booked a double stall, so I was going to have 2 tables, so 2 6-foot tables. So I thought, I need some little easels so I can put my paintings on. I thought, I'll probably need, I can't remember if I thought 8 or 10 of them, but I think 8. I think I'll get about 8 pictures on there. Let's buy 8 of them, for a tenner each. And it's like, and then you think, so I'm not doing all this. Instead of, what I eventually did was sat down with my bit of paper on the computer, a bit of paper, you know what I mean? So I'd drawn out a 6-foot table, and then I knew that a picture was, I don't know, 50 centimetres wide, and then I worked out by the time I was going to have prints and stuff like that, I could only actually get 3 paintings on the table.
Right.
So I bought 5 extra easels, little mini stand-up on the table easels that I couldn't use.
Which was £50 you didn't spend. Mm.
Yes. So I was doing silly things. I mean, I think I'll use them in the future for things, so it's not a dead loss or anything. But I did quite a few things like that just by not sitting with a bit of paper and working out what I could actually get on the table. And I also bought way too many frames because I thought, I can put up 8 paintings. So I bought 8 frames.
Right.
Get up.
Which you will use, you can always use if you do an exhibition somewhere and put them on the wall. But yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? It was just that. So what I would say, don't start immediately buying things. Sit there, either do it on a computer or draw it out to scale. I mean, roughly to scale. Work out how big your pictures are, how much space they're going to take, so you can see what you're actually going to be able to fit in the space that you're using. And it's really obvious stuff. And the funny thing is, if someone else had given me this job to plan for them, that's what I would have done.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? And when you got there, you found that it wasn't overly busy, was it? And so we feel like they may have missed a bit of a trick in getting that event out there, and advertised.
I don't think they advertised it. I don't think they advertised it. All the stall holders there said that's the quietest they've ever known it. But, I mean, can I just suggest another tip as well? That is to write a list of everything you need. Again, a completely blooming obvious one, and I did this. But otherwise you start panicking. So just write a list of all simple things like tablecloth, take some tape, take your stand, take your card reader, because once you've got that, it's much easier to pack everything and tick it all off. And also get a bum bag. Suddenly last minute I thought, I've got nothing to put my money in. So, the day before or a couple of days before, I'm ordering on Amazon a bum bag so I can wear the change.
Luckily you didn't need it anyway.
No, I didn't, no. Because there's no one there.
And there was no money to put in it.
No, there was no money to put in it. But you know what I mean? You need to think about things like that.
What you've got to remember is yes, you do have to invest a bit of money when you're doing your first one into framing and that kind of thing. And if it's a craft show where it's on a table, that kind of thing, you do have to put a bit of money into it. But even if you don't make anything to begin with, you can reuse those things again and again, can't you? So it's not like it's, that was a waste of money. You can use them again, and next time you'll go in knowing a bit more about it, and hopefully you'll do better, But yeah, I mean, my tips would be really about the whole thing before the event, which is to, get people interested in actually going to it and get it out there. So there are lots of ways to do this. Obviously, I know that there are things like, it seems like a really old-fashioned way of doing it now, but, you could put a little advert in your local newspaper, it seems very old-fashioned now, doesn't it, to do that? But, of course, the best way is to create an event on Facebook. So on your Facebook page and on your normal timeline page, create an event and post a weekly reminder at least a month before. So you're kind of creating a buzz about it. So you do a different post every week. So, oh gosh, I'm getting nervous now. I wonder how many people are going to be there. And, it's going to be really good. There's going to be lots of different peoples out there. Or whatever it is. I don't know what kind of show we're talking about here. It could be a solo exhibition. It could be something like myself and my friend Kerry did, where it's 2 of us. Or it could be something like you did, where it's an entire art and craft show where there's lots of people. But it's so important to get people to actually know about it, because nobody's going to turn up if they're not even aware it's on. So that's the most important thing, is to actually make it known it's actually happening. Do you know what I mean? And also, anybody else who you know who would also be willing to share that event. So, for instance, if I was having an event, I would then say to my friends and family, you know, could you share this event that I'm putting up on Facebook? Could you share it with all your friends as well? So you're trying to get this known to as many of your local people as you can, because, you know, you want them to show up. So it's just creating that buzz, I think. And maybe you could create a reel talking about your event if you're brave enough. So have your video camera and sort of say, wow, I'm really excited. I'm very nervous about it. I'm going to be showing this piece and this piece, and I'd love you to come. And obviously, if you want to come along, invite your friends and ask your friends to bring their friends, you know. Also, the other thing to remember is, we've spoken about Facebook a lot, but I've got my normal timeline, which is my sort of personal page. I've also got my artists page. But let's not forget, the local town I live in has also got its own page. And the same will apply if I decided I wanted to do an exhibition in Brighton. They've got a Facebook page. Do you know what I mean? So the other important thing to remember is try and get your event shared or post about it on their website as well. Because I'm a member of my local town's Facebook page. So if anything came up like that, I'd see it. I'd see someone saying, oh, I'm having an art show and blah, blah, blah. And I'd go, oh, I might go to that because they've put it on there. So that's another thing. Also, write it in your newsletter. If you have a newsletter, maybe do an extra 2 or 3 newsletters in the month or two leading up. Even though most of the time the newsletter perhaps gets read by people across the pond, maybe, but there'd be obviously your friends and family, they will probably have subscribed to it as well. So, you know, link them to it and ask them again, share this, you know, share it with your friends. And obviously do the same on your Instagram, any other social media platform. Don't underestimate the power of social media. I think you'll get probably far more visitors from that than you would any other way of doing it. The other way as well is to entice people to go, because it's all very well making it known, but how are you going to entice them to actually show up? There's nothing that will help people show up than a free glass of wine, is a free glass of wine on arrival and some nibbles. This is what Kerry and I did when I did that exhibition with Kerry. We were exhibiting in a local sort of gallery / framers, and we had to obviously buy the wine and everything like that, and we bought enough for what we would think would give a people a glass when they came in, and obviously laid out some nibbles. So you could advertise that free glass of wine on arrival. Also, maybe you could do like a raffle at the event, or a prize draw or something like that to win maybe a free print. Or another way is to say, on this particular event, I'm offering an exclusive discount for people that show up at the event, and it's a one-off discount for that day in those walls. Do you see what I mean? So that's the thing I would think about. Is the most important thing isn't necessarily what goes on in the show itself. It's actually the part before the show even happens. You know, it's getting people knowing about it, talking about it, and wanting to come along.
Can I make an admission here? Well, I did the raffle thing, but I only got 4 signatures on the raffle.
Oh, did
because
you?
There were so few. Yeah, there's so few people, and then of course of those people, not that many people would necessarily like my style. Do you know what I mean? Because there was a lot of older people there,
right?
And it probably it would probably be liked more by a lot more younger people. That's my theory anyway. I could be very wrong there, but my admission is I didn't hardly advertise the event deliberately.
Because you were nervous about it.
Yeah, because I was nervous about it, which I think a lot of people do the same as me, but maybe wouldn't admit it. Because I was nervous about it. And then also because the only people I thought would be able to come because they're local enough are people I knew, but I probably didn't think my style would be up their alley. Anyway, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was almost like I wanted people I didn't know to see it, if that makes sense.
Going back to the raffle quickly.
Yeah.
How much were you charging for a ticket?
Oh, no, this wasn't a raffle. This was basically, there's a box to put in your email and your name for a prize draw to win prints.
It's a prize draw, I see, yeah.
Yes, because it wasn't a raffle, because basically what I wanted was, I wanted to collect email addresses so that I knew people who liked my work, I could get into contact with them again.
I see,
so, so it wasn't, but funnily enough, someone I know has since told me what she used to do, because she used to basically run events for a company. This is terrible. Yeah. I'm sure this happens all the time. She goes, what you do is she'd hustle to get people to take part. But I couldn't, unless someone looked interested, it is very difficult to know whether to suggest that they entered your prize draw. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she says what she used to do was she'd see how interested the person was. She goes, when I enter a prize draw, and if the person seemed really keen and they're asking questions or whatever, they'd say yes and they'd enter. She'd write a star on the bit of paper that she put their name in a thing. And if they seemed, they filled it in, but they weren't that bothered, there wouldn't be a star on it. And then instead of making it completely random, the winner was not random.
Oh no, that's terrible.
No.
Oh dear. I'm sure it happens all the time.
All the time, yes.
I'm sure.
But I won't say who that is that said that.
No.
No.
But with raffles, if I was going to do a raffle, I'd want to do it where if I was going to sell a ticket, I'd want the tickets to be at least £5 each. Because that way, if they win a free print, as long as you get at least, a handful, that it's at least going to pay for your costs of actually having the print done.
Yeah.
Or you could do like a silent auction. That would be quite interesting. What about that?
So everybody puts in their bid?
Yeah, and then the top bidder wins a print. Because it could be only 20 quid, I don't know, but somebody could go, I want to put 100 quid in,
I think the only trouble with stuff like that is you need a volume of people that like your work, enough volume of people. So like when you and Kerry were doing your show, the people that came to that show either liked you and Kerry or they liked you and Kerry's work. People come to these, like the event like I went to, you're only going to get even if you get quite a large number of people through the door, only a segment of that are actually going to like what you do. Yeah. Somebody else might love ceramics, which you got next door. Yeah. Someone else might love that. So you need the volume to be able to do that, because first of all, you've got to get them interested in because they're putting money down still effectively, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with your thing, like when they just come to see you, you've got much more chance with something like that. That's what I would say.
I think finding obviously your venue was your venue because they do that there,
Yeah.
Who organises that, by the way, that art show? Is it something that happens every year in that town or something?
It's basically this old estate with a fancy house, an older house estate. And it happens every year. Basically, they have so many events a year, different types of events. So the people who work for that company, that house, they organise it. But clearly they did a really crap job. Either it was a crap job of advertising it, or it's because this year we've had extra bank holidays together because of the King's coronation. So people were perhaps doing things on the other days. But I actually, one of my points I'd got is that if you are going to do events, look for them as early as possible. Now, I had the problem that I only suddenly decided, I'm going to try an event. When really, if you want to do it, you want to be looking sort of now what's going on for next year. And I only mean to get a feel for what events are happening when, because I actually missed out on some really cheap local events. These might not generate any income, but I could have had a little market stall in my local town, and they were like 20 quid. So it's like, if you do it and you don't sell anything, it's not a big deal, is it? If you paid £20 for your stall. Do you know what I mean? But I emailed her, said, "Oh, can I get a stall at this?" But they've already booked up.
Yeah. Because
I'm too late. And so what I would suggest is, if you're in England, or actually I think it might be a UK word, I'm not sure, there's a website that someone told me about called Stall Finder. And this lists stalls and events that are going on in the country. So that's a good one. But if you're not, there's also sites like for competitions and events. Have you seen that Zealous and MoMA?
No.
There's one called Zealous.
Oh, MoMA, yes.
Actually, MoMA, is that just UK, MoMA? Because it's .co.uk, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I get that newsletter.
Yeah. And I think as well, the mistake I probably made, although I kind of knew it might be the case, is to try and find events that suit your art. I wasn't sure if mine was going to fit where I went, but I just thought, I'll take a punt, because maybe mine will be a bit of fresh air in fairly traditional crafts, but it might not be. So I'm also looking at doing some events. I'm doing some Comic-Cons later in the year, because it doesn't necessarily have to be an art event. It could be an event that suits, like, say you paint flowers, maybe there's a flower event that might be better, because you're then going to be one of probably only a handful of artists there, because everybody else is actually going to be selling flowers or other things. So I think that's another thing you look at.
I think venue is so important. It really is. I mean, there's the obvious, doing what you've done and doing what I've done, but there's also other things like open house exhibitions. Do they have those where you are? Because around where we are, particularly Eastbourne area, they do open house exhibitions. So basically you get a group of artists and it goes all sort of through Brighton, Eastbourne. It's basically in the East Sussex area, and you can sign up to be part of this open house exhibition. And what it means is, over a particular weekend or 2 or 3 days, certain people open their houses to let, not just to exhibit their own work, but to hang other people's works as well. So, and you can just drop in at these houses at any one time to have a look. So that's another thing you could do.
They do one of those near me, actually, and I looked at it, but I haven't really got a suitable space for doing that, because I don't really want people wandering around the main house, and mine's an office.
The main house, which wing? The west wing or the east wing?
No, I mean, like, I'm in
the gatehouse.
Yes, I'm in the converted garage, basically, my office. But it's more of an office, and it's very messy. And even if I tried to tidy it up a bit, it's not really a wander around and look at art kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I've been to one of these before, because my friend Kerry actually does them. I think she's done quite a few of them now. And her cousin makes glass jewellery and things like that. So she does it as well. So it's not necessarily just art that hangs on the walls, but I think I would have a problem with loads of art hanging all over my walls, because then you've got the nails and everything ruining your walls. I think there must be better ways of hanging them now. I don't know, but she does them, and I've been to one of those where there's about 3 or 4 houses within walking distance of each other involved, and it is literally like a living room with TV and a coffee table, and and there's and canvases hanging all over the walls, and a little kitchen with wine and cheese, and it's been a real fun social event. It's not about the space the art is hanging in, it's just a bit more about it's just like a real eclectic mix of people and creativity, if you know what I mean, all in one small space. Yes, it's your bog standard average sort of house, but somehow that kind of makes it what it is. I think it's quite a cool, cool thing to do. I wouldn't get involved with that simply because, like you, I don't think I've got the right space for it. I just haven't.
I think I'd feel quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'd feel quite uncomfortable, I think, about, well, random strangers as well come in your house. You don't know quite, do you know what I mean?
No.
But also it was quite expensive to do it around here, because I don't know if Kerry has to do this, but if I wanted to go in for hours, first of all, it was 25 quid to become a member of the open house thingy. Yeah. Then if you wanted to be, then actually to be in the open house thing, it was another 25 quid. So that was just a membership. Yeah. And it was 25 quid to do it. And then if you wanted to be in the brochure, it was another 45 quid. And then if you didn't want to be in your own house, there were some venues, but some of those venues were also charging to be at the venue. So I was working out, I was thinking, oh, it's 100 quid before I even put it in a venue. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I spent a lot on a stall, but it's like, I don't even know how many paintings you could have at a venue. So it's like, well, that is a lot of money just for hanging a painting somewhere, or 2 paintings. Do you know what I mean?
It is. Yeah, especially when you're really not sure it's got a chance of selling. Yeah. It is hard. It is a bit of a gamble, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I'm not a gambling person, but that's a problem. Yeah. I think sometimes you need to be.
I think if you lived in Brighton or somewhere like that, or somewhere in London, or somewhere a bit more arty, I think you're much more likely to have the right people perhaps come round and look, and more people. Yes. Yeah.
There was one house in the Four, because like most houses were pretty sort of standard houses, but there was one had a really big hallway and it had a piano in it, and it had this like big staircase, and there were people sort of hanging out on the staircase looking at the art all up the walls and drinking wine, and there was other people just sort of standing around by the piano. It was really cool. It was like something out of an Agatha Christie kind of like the house. It was really cool. It was a big house, quite an old sort of fashioned, in a good way, sort of house. And but I do think it's funny, isn't it? I think where your art is hanging could be the difference between whether it sells or whether it doesn't. So, for example, one person could see your art hanging on a wall somewhere, like, I don't know, in one of those random houses, and not buy it. They don't really. It doesn't. The venue it's in doesn't really do the artwork justice. It doesn't really belong in that space.
Right.
Yeah. They could, that very same person could see that very same piece of art hanging on a bare brick wall in a really nice sort of venue where it really suits where it is, and they can fall in love with that piece of artwork. And it's as much about the environment it's hanging in, because an environment can make or break a painting, just like a frame. You know, we've talked about frames, haven't we? You can frame a painting and it can make or break the painting. Well, it's a little bit like that with the environment you're trying to sell it by hanging in. And it's a bit like, you know, those apps, and you often use them, Tara, don't you, where you can kind of like create this environment and kind of virtually hang a painting. And you know, if you hang it in the wrong background, it can look just doesn't look right. So it's important the venue you're looking at. If it's going to cost you money to do a show, you want to make sure that the environment you're doing the show in suits your particular work. And you know, when Kerry and I did it. And that's another tip I'll say, is if you're worried about doing an art show, you can always do it with someone else. So, or with a few people, you know, if you're lucky enough to know several artists in your friendship circle that live relatively close, you can all get together and go, right, let's do an art show. Where are we going to do it? And you can share the costs of hiring the hall or whatever it is you're going to do it in, or the whatever venue it is. You can share the costs of, you know, the wine and the nibbles and all the rest of it, which is brilliant. And of course you can lean on each other and hide behind each other when you're getting nervous, that kind of thing at the event. But if you're going to do a show, what you want to do is you want to say, right, where is the best type of place for my work? So, for example, if I was going to do an exhibition for the work I've completed perhaps over the last 2 or 3 years, I'd think, what about just up the road from us, we've got a brewery and it's got a tap room in it. And this tap room is lovely. It's like this great big wooden building with really high ceilings and this massive expanse of walls. And when I go in there, quite often there's these great big pieces of art on these walls. And I actually said to the lady behind the actual bar who was serving the beer, and I said, would you ever be interested in having local artists exhibit? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And she said, what do you do? And I showed her, and she goes, well, that would be perfect. The only problem was these walls are so huge that if I hung a painting on one of those walls, it would look lost. Yeah. So I'd need to hang a few on there. Yeah. But that would be a perfect really big one. Place for... Yeah, or I need to do a really big, which was my plan in the beginning, wasn't it? Before I hit this block, it was going to be that. But that would be the perfect place for my work to hang because of the environment it's in, or a wine bar, that kind of thing. If it's like your work, Tara, I would think more about somewhere quirky like that lounge bar that you're talking about, that sort of thing. So, yeah, have a think about where would be the right place. And obviously you can approach galleries and say, look, I'd like to exhibit some of my work. Would you be interested in helping me hold an exhibition? They might say no. Galleries are a little bit more, obviously they're choosy. Yeah. You're not choosing them. They're choosing whether or not they'd show you or not, but...
Yes, someone started something quite interesting on Facebook locally to me. I've joined the group. I haven't taken part in it. I don't know if she's continued it, but the idea was she would invite different venues and whatever to come into the group and artists, and then try and arrange that they'd have pieces of artists' work on their wall. So it was kind of a win-win. So there might have been, like, say, a cafe, and there was. I know she did one event where there was a cafe who wasn't doing that well, I think, at the time, and they said, yeah, have an event, put some on our walls, and it got people into the cafe to buy drinks and stuff, and then I think an odd person sold a painting, so it was kind of a bit of a win-win, and I thought that was quite a clever idea that you could start your own kind of local group like that with a group of artists and then try and bring in local businesses to do that. But one thing I learned is that you go into these events really scared like an idiot, but people in general are really nice, and the people around you are all in the same boat. And I think I told you how great the other stallholders were. And the one next to me, how she kept on going, oh, you need to go try these people. And, she was giving me all these tips. So I think even if you don't do well, you're still going to learn something. So it's not a complete dead loss. I mean, one of the stallholders said to me that she treats each of these things as a networking event, not as something that she's going to sell. It's just basically she's going to meet people. And she said, from year to year, you can't tell which are going to be the good events and the bad events, because you might go one year and it's brilliant and you sell loads. You might go another year and sell nothing. So so you don't get despondent, you treat it like networking, and that you don't know what's going to come from the future from a connection you make on that day. And I thought that's good advice.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's very good advice. And, the first time you do it, you don't have to spend, like, you spent too much, didn't you? Overspend.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. Just pale it back a bit. Actually, I remember, and I must actually follow up on this, because a couple of years ago, I got an email from a winery, like a vineyard, also up the road from me. Don't know if you remember this. And they said,
I do.
Come across your work online. Really like the idea of hanging your work for like an art/wine like event. And I thought, wow, what a good idea. At the time, I didn't have many wine paintings, but I've got lots now. But what was good about that is they said what we would do is we would create an event for the winery, and we'd invite people, and then the people there are going to taste wine, and we'll have cheese, and we'll have we'll do that, and then we'll hang your work, and you can come along and invite your friends and everything as well, and then obviously we'll just make a percentage from your art. And it wasn't, I think they only wanted about 10%.
Oh, blimey, it's good.
And I thought, wow, that's great, because I wouldn't really be paying out for anything. I wouldn't be paying out for any of the wine and nibbles, because the point of it for them is to get people into their winery to taste their wines.
Yeah.
So they would be doing that anyway. And the point of my art being there was just they could make a little bit of extra money, and it's a win-win, isn't it?
Do you know what I think you should do?
Go on.
I think this week, either after this thingy or tomorrow, you need to email that wine company and say, I've now got plenty of wine paintings.
Yeah, they're in a gallery though, but that said, I can always say, look, nothing's sold at the moment.
Can I borrow them back?
Can I borrow them for a bit?
Well, it depends if you're feeling up to it, like as in you're feeling positive enough about your art.
I'm feeling a lot better. I do feel much better, Tara. I really do. I mean, I was feeling like an absolute fraud for even, I spoke about this, didn't I, on that podcast, for even recording a podcast. I don't feel like that now. I just think I've been through something 1,000 other artists go through, and I'm coming out the other end, which is great, But yeah, so that's another thing.
So are you going to do it? Are you going to email them?
Well, I'm not going to do that today or tomorrow, because I'm going away at the weekend, and I've got to pack and I've got to get. But I think that is going to be. It only takes.
How long does it take to email? 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's an excuse.
Okay. Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm getting nervous now. Yeah, yes.
It doesn't have to be tomorrow you're doing the event, does it?
No.
It can be in September.
Actually, no. And in fact, I think they do events in they do autumn and spring.
Go. Plenty of time.
Yes, you are right. You are right.
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe your next painting could be a bit of cheese.
I don't really fancy painting cheese.
Grapes.
No, I don't fancy doing grapes either. Yeah. So, basically, what are you going to do then?
So is that committing? Was that a yes?
I think it might be a yes.
I'm already booked in for another one.
Oh, great! When is it?
Oh, yes. I've got 3 booked. I've got an event which is early July. I've got an event in August, and I've got an event in November.
Where?
I've got July is Rushton Lakes, which is near me, about half an hour away. There's I don't think you went there when you came here. Basically, it's like a shop, loads of different shops. Right. Like a shopping, what do they call them? When you get the car park. And they're all outside shop. So they're quite up. A lot of them are quite upmarket shops. So there's a Clark's, and then there's like a fancy sports shop, and then there's Skechers, and just and like quite a lot of country kind of brands. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? A lot of them are quite upmarket brands.
Yeah.
And it's all on this. So you park in the middle, and then all these shops are on the outside. It's quite big, and it's very popular. Well, they do these events, outdoor events, where you have like a little marquee, and I'm booked in to do one of those.
Oh wow, that's brilliant! So is it a similar thing? It's kind of like an art and craft show.
I think it basically it's vintage and handmade.
Okay.
Is what it is. So people might be selling just, I guess, kind of antique-y or vintage stuff. So I guess it could be vintage clothes, vintage jewellery, and also handmade stuff. So art, anything handmade, basically. So, yeah, I'm trying that. But I don't know if that's a good fit or not. But a friend of mine used to do those for a company. They had she worked for a photography company, and she said they used to be quite busy in general. So I'm going to try that. But again, I'm not going to expect too much and just see what happens. And then I'm doing 2 Comic-Cons. Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see what happens with those.
Yeah, I don't think the local one. I'm not sure about the local one, because I'm guessing it might end up being just a kid afternoon. A kids' day, because I don't know if it's just going to be more kids who like comic books, whereas a London one, I would imagine it's more adults who like comic books, so maybe kids as well.
I think there's as many adults now that like comics as there are kids.
Well, that's what you want, isn't it? That's what I want.
Yeah. I think go on.
There's only one other thing I would say regarding cost for doing any events. Just something to factor in is that the majority of these events, probably not if you're just having your work in an exhibition, in an existing exhibition, but if you're doing a stall or anything like that, most of them want public liability insurance. Yes. Which is basically to cover that. If say if your painting fell on someone, it would cover you for that. But what I found was it can be much cheaper to get that insurance if you go through certain groups. So I've got mine. I basically joined the SAA, which is, I think it's a UK thing.
Yeah.
But they have like a group insurance. So if you join them, you'll automatically get their insurance. But I'm sure there's similar things for other countries.
The other thing you've got to remember as well is when you're actually, it's all very well booking something and going to the show and, waiting for your art to sell, but sometimes your art's not going to sell itself. You have to remember to talk about your work, which is often quite hard, isn't it, to do? But when you were at this art show, Tara, did you sort of say to people, "Oh, hi, hey, what are your interests? This is a piece I created on this when I was feeling like this," or blah blah blah? It's kind of like scary, isn't it? The thought of actually talking to somebody, but you have to engage with people to make them engage with your art. Sometimes you can't just leave them to it. You kind of. Sometimes people buy work because they like the person who painted it. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, I mean, the advice I got, and this is from someone who does sales, is don't. You can scare people off if you. What you don't want to do is say if they come and look at your work, you say, "Oh, hello," or "How are you," or whatever. Or you can compliment. I can't compliment people. I can't just say. She goes. You'll say if a woman goes by, she's got a nice scarf. And she goes, "Oh, lovely scarf." I can't do that. I'm sorry. I just feel weird. Do you know what I mean? But if someone is walking past, I go, "Oh, morning," hello. And if they then stopped. A bit longer. I had a standard line, which was, she said, "Don't start talking about your art because you'll immediately make them think, oh, she's selling.
Trying to sell."
She goes, "You want to get them talking about them." So she said, so what my standard line was, "Oh, are you an artist yourself?" Because I don't know if that's a good line or a bad line, but what I found was people really say, "Oh, no, I've tried and I was terrible." Or they'd say, "Oh, no, but my nieces," or do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So at least got them talking. And then if they asked me anything, I could talk.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. If somebody shows interest in your work and they show that they want to know about it, then by all means, of course, tell them your inspiration, the story behind your work. But you have to be very careful not to make them think like you're trying to give them a hard sell. That's a big mistake. If anything, it's going to turn someone off. But it really, the secret is just engaging them in a bit of conversation, I think, and not making them feel like I better not stop, because if I do, they're going to try and sell me something. So it just does not work. But yes, it's important to engage with people at the show. But one of the things people forget to do, I think, when they do a show or an event, is they forget to talk about it afterwards when it's all finished. So, in other words, if you're trying to sell your work at the show and it doesn't end when the show is done, it doesn't need to end when the show is done. So you can go onto social media and create a reel or a post and talk about how it went, what pieces people showed them most interest in, where people can find your work if they couldn't get to the show, that kind of thing. So you're still saying, I've had the show, it went really well, there's a few pieces left, and I'm sorry if you couldn't get there, and this is where you can find it. So it's just sort of still kind of keeping people interested, even though it's sort of over, because it's not really over. Your work's still for sale. It's just not at the show. Do you see what I mean? So that's another little tip, is just to keep talking about it afterwards. Don't just go, "Oh, well, that's done then. Till next year." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is that all your tips, or have you got any more?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I haven't really got any more because, I mean, I'm like you, Tara. I'm not one that has done tons of exhibitions at all, but I did learn a lot from the one I did. And it's basically just same as you, really. I think the hardest part is agreeing to do it or organising it, because it's scary. That's the hard bit. Funny enough, when you do it, you're always going to find actually it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be, you know.
It's totally not, is it?
And your art is not going to sell if it's in a box under the bed. No one's going to see it.
No, but there we go.
And I do think, I don't care what anyone says, I think very quickly that it's very different looking at art in the flesh than it is looking at it on a computer screen. So sometimes people will look at my work and go, God, oh, wow, you know, it looks so much better when you see it in the flesh. And, you know, that's often the case with art. It can look actually so much better when you've got it in front of you than it does on a computer. So it's important to actually get it out there for people to see for real as well when you can. But yes, I think that's it. I don't think
an idea of scale, can you? You can't get an idea of scale, I don't think. It's very difficult.
It's really difficult. Even when you actually say it's X big and by X whatever. It's like, you know, sometimes I put a picture of me holding it up so that people get the scale, but you can't beat seeing something for real, you know.
No.
But yes, I think that's all we need to. I don't think I've got anything else really that of any value to say of you. No, okay.
I think okay, we're not experts in this. It's like we say, we've only done like, you know, one event each or whatever. But sometimes I think that's the best people because they're not experts. So we've seen firsthand and very recently all the muck-ups we've made. So we're just sharing our muck-ups so you don't make so much muck-ups as we do. I think.
Nobody could ever accuse us two of being unreal, that's for sure.
No,
that's for sure.
So let's go on to the answers to our last question. And that last question was, what's the most unexpected source of inspiration you've ever drawn from for your art?
Okay, so I've got Rick Fravor. I did some illustrations when I visited Florida a few years ago. They were actually inspired by cats that were roaming the yard of the hotel we stayed in.
I've got Tiffany Markham. I once drew an abstract burrito. What?
I've got art by Jackie P. A disaster situation a few years ago. I was upset and moved, and did a couple of abstracts as an immediate reaction. I shared with another private group of artists and was told off by a couple of other members for taking advantage of people's suffering. Good job Picasso felt moved enough to paint Guernica. Oh my gosh, I mean, I can't believe somebody actually said that to her.
I can't either.
Why would you take advantage of someone's suffering? That's not what she was doing, is it?
No.
That's reacting to her own reaction.
Emotion. Yeah.
Exactly. That's crazy. That's just someone being horrible. Yeah. I had to actually, do you know, the embarrassing thing is I had to actually look up Picasso's Guernica because I'm not familiar with that one. Turns out it's his best known work, or one of his best known works.
Oh, is it? I wouldn't know what it is either.
Oh, it's an anti-war painting. And it is actually,
okay.
Yeah, and it's in his real wacky sort of cubism-y sort of, well, I don't think it was cubism, but it was you'd like it, I think.
Right.
It was very moving, I think, in his own style. Yeah, I did have to look it up, and then I thought, God, how embarrassing. And that was one of his best.
I'll look it up
works.
after. Yeah. We're not very cultured, are we?
Clearly not.
Right. I've got Happy RN Art. That's obviously an Instagram handle. And it says, I'm finding inspiration everywhere, including tiles on the floor and gravels on the ground. Once it was tiny purple flowers surrounded by grass. Looking down has unlocked so many ideas.
And I've got Artists Strong, which is, of course, our friend Carrie. In my 20s, I had a life-threatening surgery where I was told I could die or go blind. Since I had 2 weeks between the announcement and the surgery, I just showed up to paint. I lost all judgments and worries about what to make, and I realised I truly just wanted to create because it may be the last time I do. Thankfully, it all went well for my health, and those 2 pieces I painted were selected in a competition to exhibit at the Smithsonian, is that how you say that? And the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Wow, I did not know that about Carrie. I didn't. Wow, that's an amazing story.
I've got another Carrie here. Carrie is artsy. My son has ADHD, and while he is creative and thinks out of the box, he can also be quite literal. This often inspires me. One time in Texas, I told him to look at the cacti, and he said, "Mum, cactuses don't have eyes," which inspired me to draw my cacti, spelled EYE, pieces of cactuses with eyes. It also made me notice that birch trees have eyes, which inspired another piece.
Oh, that's really cool. I've got another question for you, which you don't know actually, because I only came up with it earlier this morning.
Yes.
So this week's question is, if you could invite one VIP guest to your own show, dead or alive, anyone at all, who would it be and why? So if you could invite one VIP guest to your own show, dead or alive, who would it be and why? Any immediate thoughts, Tara, on that one?
No, none at all.
No.
How about you?
Probably my Uncle Danny, actually, because he's sadly not around anymore. And when he was towards the end of his life, I'd really just, I was really getting into it. And I just finished my Bear series, and he was really proud of me. And I think, God, I've come a long way since then. And I'd love him to have seen some of the latest stuff I did, because I just think he would have really loved to have followed along the journey. So it would definitely be him, I think.
If you want to answer the question, you can do so by finding the question in the Facebook group, which if you haven't already joined, I highly recommend you do. We'll also put the question up on the Facebook page and of course on Instagram, which is Kicking the Creatives.
Yeah, we hope that gave you the kick in the creatives you needed. Don't forget to pop over to our website at kickingthecreatives.com to find out how you can take part in some of our upcoming creative challenges. And of course, there you can also subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we would be really grateful if you would leave us a little review or even just a star rating if you don't have any time. If you want to find either myself or Tara online, I'm on Instagram as Sandra.Busby, also on Facebook as Sandra Busby Artist, and my website is sandrabusbyart.com. What about you, Tara? Where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, which is tararoscallart.com. Also on Instagram and Facebook as Tara Roskell Art. And don't forget, you can also subscribe to our Kicking the Creatives newsletter. You can keep up with all the challenges and the podcasts, and you can find a subscription to that on our website. Plus, we've released a course, which is how to create characters and cartoons. Actually, we got a lovely comment about that, saying that someone was doing a lot of the intuitive drawings and absolutely loving it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I didn't realise that.
That was really nice. And you can find a link to the course on our website at kickingthecreatives.com/cartoon course, where you can find out more.
If you enjoy what we do and you'd like to help support us here at Kicking the Creatives, you can now support us by buying us a coffee, and you can find a link to this on our website. And thank you very much to our latest supporters, Joanna Brown, of course, thank you so much, and also Roving J. Roving J says thanks for episode 133, the good, the bad and the ugly. So I guess she must have related to that somehow.
She was having a block. I saw it on our website.
Okay. Oh, well, do you know what, it's really good, and that's why we share, because we're all in this together, aren't we? And sometimes social media is not a real place. It's just nice sometimes to go, someone else is in this, someone else is feeling this too. It's quite normal. So I'm glad you enjoyed that one. Also, Katie, thank you very much for your support. She says, you are both amazing and give so much. Thank you. Well, thank you. We really appreciate it. We really do. And if you can't help us via Ko-fi, there are other things you can do to help. And you can do things like just share episodes with other creatives or creative groups you're involved in, or write us perhaps a nice review. It all helps us. We really, really do appreciate any support you can give. But that's it for this time, and we will see you next time.
See ya. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, perhaps you'd like to share it and leave a review for us on iTunes. Back soon.
Roving J, she says, thanks so much for episode 100. Hang on, that's a dog going out the dog flap. Let me just read that bit again.
Tail. I heard him have a drink a minute ago.
Oh, did you? Oh, God.
Yeah.
Let me start that bit again.